Good afternoon. If you would like, you can deliver a brief opening.
Okay. My name is Kathleen Rallo. I'm born and raised in Florida. I left Florida briefly to go to law school in Connecticut. I was raised by a single mom. I've got 3 brothers. My mom went to law school. Unfortunately, when she became a single mom, she did have to leave law school, and that's when I decided I was going to go to law school. I was a kindergartner, went with my hot pink briefcase and my little baby dolls because I was going to be a lawyer and a mom. And I've wanted to do this ever since. So my husband went to law school with me. We both graduated from Western New England School of Law in Massachusetts. And he was in the Federalist Society. He was president of the Federalist Society. He is no longer practicing. He's a teacher at Melbourne Central High School now. He left the practice of law when my son was diagnosed with autism. It's just easier for summers for him to be home, for him to be around him. One of us had to kind of give up the busy lifestyle, and it was just easier for him. And that brings us to where we are now. I practiced in Connecticut for 6 years. While I was in Connecticut, I was primarily a civil attorney. I worked all through law school. I was part-time law school. I worked full-time. I worked at civil law firms, and I was a family lawyer, well, civil and family law firms. And then when I graduated, I went into a personal injury and a criminal law firm where they were primarily a criminal law firm, and I was hired for my civil experience. So I did that for 6 years. My entire family was still in Florida. My 3 brothers, all of their children. We made the decision to come home to Florida. I've been with the Public Defender's Office ever since. The Public Defender's Office has been amazing. I've gotten incredible experience. I've gotten to know all of the judges. I've gotten to know a lot of the local attorneys and the community. And the trial experience has just been outstanding. So I have nothing but good news or good things to say about that experience. And for that, I will tender the floor to questions.
Thank you. Ms. Delgado.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. The first is just a background question based on your application. I just need a little bit of clarification. Under the educational history where you have your law school and underneath class rank, you have written PPA 81. What is that?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's what it says. It says literally class rank and PPA 81. So I think that might be out of everybody, that's where I was, or that might have been my average, my grade average.
Okay.
But that's what it says on my transcript, so that's just what I put in there.
I wasn't sure if it was a typo for GPA, and then
Nope.
I couldn't understand the 81, so thank you for that.
No, and I was going to call him and get clarification. I never got around to it.
Okay. Well, I had the primary responsibility of vetting your application, and I did want to pass along just some general feedback in talking with all of your references. Everything that I heard was very consistent across the board as far as your temperament, your demeanor, your work ethic. So I wanted to share that with you. My question for you is twofold. The first is, why do you want the specific circuit court seats?
I personally would be happy in circuit court or county court. I don't care one way or another. I would love to be a judge. I would love to serve the citizens. I would love to take that next step. I don't have a preference one way or another. I was before Judge Mall for 2 years. So when I found out that his spot in particular was becoming available, I wanted to go for that. So I would love to be a circuit judge. Blaise Tretis hired me straight into felony because I had the murder experience, I had all the trial experience coming from Connecticut straight down here. Typically when you are hired into the Public Defender's Office, you have to work your way up. You have to start a misdemeanor and go, and I went straight into circuit court. So that's where all my experience is. I know the minimum mandatories. I know the criminal aspect of it, but I also have the experience of civil. I have the experience of family. I have the experience of probate. So I would be a good candidate for it as far as someone who is coming from a government position. I know a lot of public defenders and a lot of prosecutors don't have that. So circuit court would be a good fit for me as far as that's concerned, but I'd be very happy in county court too, so it does not matter to me.
My second question is, outside of this application process, what have you done to prepare for this particular circuit court seat?
So I've watched a lot of interviews. I've done a lot of studying on, I've gone over a lot of people's applications. I've read a lot about Governor DeSantis, what he's looking for, who he's appointed leading up to this, who he hasn't appointed leading up to this, the pros and the cons. And I've done a lot of research on judicial philosophy, and I found myself very much in line with that. I've talked to other judges who were appointed, and I've taken their advice, and I've talked to other judges who are sitting on the bench and their advice and what they thought, and I've taken all of the advice from all of them.
Sounds like a lot of work. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, nice to meet you. What is your judicial philosophy?
So, you know, some judges are very result-driven. So you can make an argument, and they are very concerned with what will happen if I grant this motion. And I, on the other hand, think that what you need to look at is the law. What does the law say? Apply it to the facts. If it all matches up, it is what it is, and it doesn't necessarily matter what the outcome is. If that's what the law says it is, then that's what it needs to be. And that is my philosophy, and I think that that's what a judge needs to do. And I see it, and I've been before numerous judges. I've been before the judges in Connecticut and the judges down here. And it's frustrating when you present them with the law and you know everything matches up. And I've actually had a judge say, well, if I grant this, what will happen? Doesn't matter. If the law is what it is, then you need to follow it. And I firmly believe that. And I think that that's the true meaning of where we come from and the intent of the legislator.
Just a quick follow-up about your work history when you worked at the firm in Connecticut. I know you said today that you did do some civil and family, but it looks like the majority of it was criminal defense work. Can you just elaborate on the breakdown of the experience while you worked at that firm?
Sure. So they were primarily, Wolf Law Firm was the major firm that I worked for. I was an attorney for Watstein as well, but they were mostly personal injury and workers' comp. I was there for about 1.5 years before that partner started getting really sick and he was starting to dwindle down the firm. Wolf Law Firm, on the other hand, they were primarily a criminal defense firm. They were one of the top firms in Connecticut. And they hired me for my personal injury experience to start expanding. They had personal injury in their firm. Neither of those two partners had a lot of personal injury experience, so they hired me to expand on that. But they were a criminal firm. So when I was brought on, I managed the personal injury. I managed the intake of the clients, the management of those files. We had family cases as well. Unfortunately, with criminals, sometimes, you know, you do certain things and your wife's going to leave you. So that went hand in hand, and we had multiple.
Or husband.
Yeah, or husband. You never know. So we had that happen, and we had a lot of family cases that coincided with our criminal cases. And I had that experience when I worked in during law school. That was primarily a personal injury and a family law firm. So I had the family aspect of it, so I managed those cases and that side of those cases when we were going forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Bear?
Good afternoon. So at Wolf Law Firm and the one you were at before, sorry the name isn't coming up, but were you litigating and handling the personal injury or civil cases and family cases in court? Or were you...
When they went to motions, when they went to hearings, yes, I did. They did not typically, I never did a trial. I had one at Watstein go to a trial to pick a jury. We got there. They made the client a great offer, and you just don't say no when it's a great offer. So
you were actively litigating the civil and family cases?
yes, if it was on my docket, it was mine. I handled it through and through, and especially at Wolf. Wolf didn't handle a lot of it. Attorney Wolf didn't handle a lot of it. It was mine, and I handled all of the negotiations.
So you're at the public defender's office now. You've been there for a while. What is motivating you to want to make this change to the judiciary?
It's the next step. So I don't necessarily want to go back to private practice. I did private practice. I've gotten small children. And as much as I loved private practice, it dominated. I was constantly on my phone. I was constantly checking my phone and my emails. And I find myself doing that now. All of my emails go to my cell phone now, and I'm still doing it. My husband's like, isn't this why you went to the state? Stop it. Put it down. Don't answer calls on the weekends. I don't want to go back to private practice, at least not yet. I've got a 3-year-old, I've got an 11-year-old, I've got an 8-year-old, so I really love the judicial aspect. I love arguing, and I love watching the judges when they see the arguments and when the state makes the arguments and I make the arguments, and watching their brains work and watching the process, and I think I would be good at it. When I work up a case, I always start from the state's perspective. I always get the jury instruction, and I pull it out and I figure out what does the state have to do to prove this case, and I pretend like I'm the prosecutor and I work it up from that angle, and then I work it up from the defense angle so that I can defend the case. And I feel like a lot of that would benefit me in the judge's realm as well. in taking in all the facts and the evidence and the case law and applying it and going from that direction. So I think that I would be good at that role. I'm good at the case law, I'm good at understanding the case law, and I'm handling it quickly.
Thank you.
I spoke with a lot of your colleagues and judges who are overwhelmingly supportive of you. So I want to let you know that.
Thank you.
The judges like you. That's a good thing. One of the realities of being appointed is that you're going to have to face election.
Right.
Do you have the confidence in your ability to handle the financial aspect of an election?
Yes.
If you're appointed, and if you're not appointed, would you run for an open seat?
Yes. So I've already met with the campaign manager. I kind of mapped out my journey to become a judge. I've already tried to figure out the best ways to do it. Obviously, working at the public defender's office, my budget, and my husband being a high school teacher, we've got limited means. So we need to figure out the best way financially to do it. Now, we've got money that we can move around, that we can start budgeting, that we can start saving, and we can start putting into savings a lot more as far as to defend the seat. I know what I need to do. I know exactly how much I need. I know what I need to retain the campaign manager. I know who I need to be with as far as support. I've already started meeting with some of the key people that I would need who would support me on the campaign trail. I'm prepared for that, and I'm looking towards 2024 if I'm not appointed to potentially run. But I would rather be appointed so that I'm just defending a seat, because it's a lot easier to defend a seat than it is to start from the ground up, especially in a circuit position where I'm defending a seat over 2 counties. However, I'm confident that I could do it. I spent hours with the campaign manager figuring out what I need, how I need to do it. We knew that 2022, I was looking at Judge Ryman's position. I wasn't ready for 2022. I wasn't ready as far as what I needed to line up for it for a campaign. But as far as defending a seat, I absolutely know what I need to do, and I know that I could do it.
Thank you. Hey, Ms. Rallo, how are you?
Hi, I'm fantastic. How are you?
Based on, I mean, you've got experience that people don't. Obviously, a wealth of different aspects of the legal field, but also in different courtrooms, different states. Is there anything that, based on your experiences, that you feel is unique that you would bring into the Brevard County Courthouse as a judge?
Sure. Like you said, from being from Connecticut to coming down to Florida and being private in Connecticut to coming down to Florida, I do have a lot of different outlooks on it. And also one of the things that I did with Wolf Law Firm is we also represented attorneys at the grievance level up there. So I also knew what we could and what we could not do, and I had an interesting look at ethics and what you could do as far as ethically looking from an attorney's perspective. And so I bring a lot of experience from a lot of different areas coming down, but also how collateral consequences would impact clients. We would get clients after the pleas, and that's something that you don't see a lot at the public defender's office, of trying to expunge a record, or someone who years afterwards would have a withhold in Florida. Connecticut doesn't honor withholds. We don't look at withholds. If you pled guilty, regardless of if you got a withhold or not, you were found guilty and you were no longer eligible for programs in Connecticut or anything like that. So it definitely gives me an opportunity, and I always advise my clients of that when I'm looking at it, and I think from the bench perspective, it gives me a different angle as well. Thank you.
Mr.
Good
Dowdy.
afternoon, Katie.
Hi, how are you?
Good. What qualities do you think make a good judge? Do you think you possess those qualities?
I think a good judge, especially being in front of a lot of the judges around here, a good judge is patient, but a good judge is also perceptive, listens, and is prepared. One of the things that drives me nuts is someone who comes in and doesn't understand what's going on, or isn't prepared for the day, or just not only isn't prepared, but just isn't patient with the process. Sometimes attorneys have to negotiate that day on the spot, and if you want to go, you can't always go. And sometimes things come up in the courtroom that you've just got to figure out. If a negotiation is going to happen, let that happen, because it may avoid the trial that doesn't need to take up the next week. So an hour or 2 hours, patience goes a long way. Compassion and empathy. There's victims, there's defendants, and whatever happens in that courtroom that day, or plaintiffs and defendants, however it may be, is going to impact those people for the rest of their lives. And I think putting yourself in those positions and knowing where each of those people are and what they're going through. It's a traumatic experience for them, and I think that a judge who understands that every single person who's coming before them, whether it be an attorney or it be the citizen who's going before them, I think it goes a long way for understanding all of that and being able to put yourself in their shoes. So I do think I possess all of those qualities.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
So earlier you said that you reviewed a lot of applications, interviews, people that Governor DeSantis did and did not choose. What do you think distinguishes you from the individuals who didn't make the short lists in past openings and weren't selected by Governor DeSantis?
My experience. So a lot of them don't have trial experience going into it. Some of them may be extremely qualified. Some of them may be magistrates, and they've got this judicial experience, and they come across incredibly eloquently, but they don't have the jury experience. They don't have the trial experience. They don't necessarily, if you don't have jury and trial experience, you don't understand the rules of evidence. If someone on the fly is objecting, and you need to rule on that objection, you need to understand the rules of evidence. You need to understand hearsay. You need to understand how all of that's going, and you need to be able to be paying attention, processing, and applying those laws. And I think that that sets me aside from a lot of the people that I've watched, a lot of the other applicants. I would apply the same thing to other areas of law. A lot of the ones that I've seen going in there are kind of pigeonholed into areas of law that they've done. And they've done that one area throughout their entire career. And I think that that sets me aside as well. And that I've got a vast approach, a vast variety of what I can do.
Thank you. Mr. Gerber.
Excellent writing samples.
Thank you.
Did you write them?
I did.
Word for word?
Word for word, except unless it's in a citation. The last one I believe I created as well, if it's a motion to dismiss.
Also, Robert, the most extensive work history received in the application. Thanks for the level of detail.
Thank you.
I want to follow up on Mr. Valentine's question. We see a lot of people who go from the attorney's office to the defender's office. We've got a lot of people who are government employed lawyers in some capacity, whether it's magistrates, county judges, etc. What distinguishes you from those people who have seen trials?
From the ones who've seen trials?
Right.
I've
Participated in trials.
Sure. I've not only done the trials, but I've done criminal trials, and I've got the experience that sets me aside, and that, you know, as a prosecutor, you haven't worked with the defendant. You haven't built the case up from the defense side. And a lot of times career prosecutors, and it's not a knock on career prosecutors, they don't understand how hard it is when they make their offers or when they're working with a case, how hard it is to communicate with the defendant and in preparing and relaying offers and getting that far. And so I've got that experience, and I've got the experience of conducting the depositions and the cross-examinations and all of that stuff. So while they can build a case and they can prepare the case from that angle, there's a lot more that goes on the side of the defense. Even though we don't have the burden, we still have to do so much during the discovery process to get that case ready, to make sure that we know what's going on and we're not going to get a 3850 on the back end of it. Because no matter what we say in confidence to our client, at the end of the day, it can come back on us. And then the state attorney ends up representing us at the end. So, you know, it's a flip side coin to make sure that you're protected, but that you're also doing a good job. And so, you know, from the defense side of it, there's that. But there's also the aspect of working with everybody and making sure that you can work with the defense and you can work with the prosecutors. And so I've got that in the criminal side. But I've also been able to work with insurance companies. I've been able to work in the probate field and working with families who have lost, you know, loved ones and things of that nature.
Ms. Ballard.
Hi.
Your application, I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.
Piggybacking on your statement that that's one of your strengths that work with other applicants is your trial experience. What percentage of that, or how, if you know how many, relate to civil practice, or are they all criminal?
They're all criminal. I've never done a civil trial. Thank you.
All right. Any closing remarks?
No, no. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everyone's patience in listening to me talk. As an attorney, I love to talk, so thank you for that. And that's it. Thank you very much for your consideration and your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.